Hello everyone. From this episode, we are going to explore in more depth of relational non-duality. But before that, just let me make a quick introduction for this philosophy, just to in case if some friends watch the video of me the first time. So I give the name of this philosophy Relational Non-Duality. It's trying to build bridges between science and philosophy, especially modern science and Eastern philosophy, Indian philosophy. And also, I'm trying to find a middle ground between idealism and materialism. And there's so much more. And if you are interested, please subscribe and follow my channel, and you can watch other episodes. So you can find the playlist named Study Relational Non-Duality. The first episode is Introduction. The second to the sixth episode is the principles of this philosophy. The seventh to ninth is the mindset of this philosophy. And the 10th to 16th, we explore the topic of origin and creation. From 17th to 20, we discuss the basic understanding of manifestation. And now the 21st episode. From now on, we will have the further understanding to understand the mechanism of manifestation. So my English is not very good, and please pardon me that. And I'm trying to improve my English by this way, and I hope you can support me and encourage me. So, from now on, we are going to explore three major questions that how relational non-duality resolve them. Einstein says that energy is equivalent to mass. But this process has been only demonstrated in the field of high-energy physics. And string theory says that everything is vibration. And quantum mechanics says everything is just quantum. But how? What is this mechanism of manifestation? From nothing, suddenly, somehow, by magical process or what? Then we have something. So what is this actual mechanism? Can we actually understand it? Can somebody explain this? So how quantum field exactly collapse into reality, into this so-called one of the universe? What did actually happened? So this is the first question we are asking, and we're trying to resolve it by relational non-duality. That is, what is the process? What is the mechanism of manifestation? So now, let's discuss the second question. You might have heard the words idealism and materialism. So what are they? Idealism holds that consciousness is the foundation of the world. Materialism suggests that matter is primary and consciousness is a product of matter. You might ask, what does it matter? If a person thinks matter is the essence or consciousness is the essence, what does it affect to my life anyway? But actually it does. First, let's discuss materialism. If you agree with materialism, that means matter is the essence, material is the essence, and your thought, your mind, your feeling, your experience, that just relatively is like an illusion. It's not real, it's just chemistry in your brain. So that can easily lead to nihilism. Some people might say, no, it's not necessarily lead to nihilism, even though there is no meaning, but I can create meaning for myself. So how could that be nihilism? But here is the problem. When you apply that thought on materialism, it actually is a paradox. Why? Because the sense of meaning, that is a feeling, that is an experience. Oh, there is a meaning of life, there is a meaning of my life. That's an emotion, a feeling, a thought. But materialism already denies the reality of this experience is actually something real. It suggests that it's just an illusion. So if you are materialistic and you suggest that I can create meaning for myself, then you are basically saying I can just lie to myself. And how that will go? That is why materialism has the natural tendency lead to nihilism. Because if you abandon this so-called fake experience, fake emotion, or even love, it's just chemistry, then what do you have left? Probably just material. Well, material is the essence anyway. So, what should we do then? Isn't there just not much choices left? Maybe I should just pursue material. Maybe I should just earn money as much as possible and to possess material and to enjoy material enjoyment as much as possible. Maybe that is my meaning of life. But even though that meaning is just my own illusion anyway. So this is a problem. Sometimes you hear people say, the materialism, when I talk about materialism, it's just a philosophical stance. It's different than people say, you're this person, you are just so material, you are so materialistic. It's different because that is a criticize, but this is just a philosophical stance. It's just neutral. Some people might say that's because you are too extreme. You can just keep a middle way. Then you can agree with materialism, but you are just not going extreme. But I'd say that materialism, this philosophical stance itself, it is extreme. Because itself is not in middle way. So am I suggesting that we should just turn to idealism? That idealism is the perfect solution? Not really. Why? Idealism sounds very spiritual in a way. But in reality, you will find people can be so isolated. Why? Because they feel the self, that the sense is all the point. Other things is just like a dream, and material is also like a dream. They don't want to even think about it. They don't want to really participate in it because what is all matter is their consciousness, is how they feel, how they think. And they even believe that this kind of feeling, this kind of sense of self can last forever. And seems like no matter what happened around, they don't care, they don't mind, they can always relax and always peaceful. But you find they wouldn't also help, they wouldn't really try to participate. And other things in their eyes are not even real anymore. And the problem is, materialism and idealism sometimes lead to the same consequences: indifference and weakened relationship. Because if people only care about material or only care about themselves, they really wouldn't care that much about the relationship. They wouldn't consider this net of relationship that much anymore, because that's not where they focus. And for that reason, it can easily weaken and even go to relativism regarding morality. And this is a problem that we are facing nowadays. In a society, indifference is increasing. We should do something and say something regarding this issue. And all this I have said, they are not just assumptions. They actually can be proven by reality. Because if you observe the places, the regions that idea of idealism are so popular, people tend to focus on their own enlightenment or even emerge with one or their self-realization, and they wouldn't care much about the development of the society. They wouldn't even care much about morality. They wouldn't care much about other people, because all of these things, they are just distraction. In their eyes, these things are obstacles that distract them to focus completely on the spiritual journey, and they meant to focus on their own path, their path of spiritual journey. So what's going to be the consequences then? In another hand, the places that people generally agree with materialism, you'll find that people really care a lot about money, about efficiency, because people will tend to agree that the function of humanity is a machine of production, that we should produce a lot of material and then enjoy this material as much as possible. And the way to prove our success is to say who possesses more material than another. So in a mindset like this, even the provement of success itself is just another illusion. It's just the chemistry in your brain. Then of course, it can easily lead to nihilism and relativism. So this is our second question. How can we resolve this extreme tendency of idealism and materialism? They're both extreme and eventually lead us to a lot of negative consequences. And they still keep affecting more and more people nowadays. And then comes to the third question. Not just about where we come from, but also where are we going? Is there soul? Is there reincarnation? If everything just gonna disappear anyway, everything just gonna dissolving anyway, if death is gonna take everything away from me, why don't we just enjoy as much as we can without even thinking about the consequences? If everyone just gonna die anyway, why should we think too much? This is a question which is so serious, but probably everyone is thinking about. So in short, our fear of death and how should we live our life? This is our third question. So when I think about these three questions, I didn't deliberately think, oh, this is a moral question, and that is a question in theory. I didn't think in that way. Because these are just literally fundamental questions. It's about our existence. It's about how we live our life. It's about how we understand ourselves and this world. We don't need to separate them or define them as a moral question or not. Because essentially, the curiosity of these three questions is going to drive us. So why don't we just go straight forward trying to solve them? Okay, so now let's face the first question. The mechanism of manifestation. How did energy and so-called vibration transform into matter? How did nothing transform into something? Let's try to understand. So, what does this picture remind you of? Okay, so I inspired by one of the natural phenomena, which is waves, right? So this is just one of the waves, and this is how I understand manifestation. This is a threshold. Beyond it, that is manifested. Below it, that is unmanifested. As simple as that. So we can say, from left to right, we have the process go through from unmanifested to manifested. And then it stay in manifested for a while, then end. It just go back to be unmanifested. So this is the most simple way to understand the relational non-duality's understanding of manifestation, which is the existence. So we already know that this process contains three steps. First, second, and third. So I give the name of the first step as standing wave, right? When the wave is just rising to be a wave in the ocean, that's a standing wave. That's a process just to build something, just to build the wave, to stand. So that is the first step. The second step is called sustaining, because the wave actually will maintain for a period of time, right? That's how we can observe this wave. We can say, oh, there is a wave, because it's sustaining in a period of time. And then, of course, it unmanifested. So obviously that is dissolving. The third stage is dissolving. So if some friends are familiar with Indian philosophy, they probably already related to something. So now let me explain the inspiration of this idea. First is from Buddhism, dependent origination. What is dependent origination? In short words, it means that nothing exists by itself. all things arise from causes and conditions. And when those conditions change or disappear, the thing also changes or ceases. So this is the first inspiration. And the second, if you know Hinduism, you already know this 3-step, which directly referring to 3 gods, the major gods in Hinduism: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma is a god in charge of creation. Vishnu is the god in charge of preservation and also maintenance. And Shiva is the god of dissolution or transformation. They said that Brahma creates the world, Vishnu uses his wisdom and knowledge and his power to maintain the peace and balance of this world. And then when this world is, due to some reason, not just due to some reason, I mean it's a natural process that it have to go to dissolve, then Shiva will have a dance of dissolution, and it's like a dance of destruction. And then the world will back to dissolve. And this is a process repeat again and again and again. And to be very honest with you, I never consider Hinduism and Buddhism are enemy. I never think in that way. Actually, I think they just complete each other. I know it might sound crazy to Buddhist people or Hindu people, but please let me explain. And I will show you that actually they just really complete each other in a lot of ways. And once you get to this reconciliation between them, then that's the ultimate truth. Just give me time and let me explain. Another thing about the wave is what? Another thing about the wave is it's not just the one wave like that, right? We know that wave is like this, continuous with time, right? So if we say this straight line is time or threshold, then the wave is always like this, constantly waving. Actually, this process is to eternity because this is the mechanism. This is the mechanism that is always in the procedure. You wouldn't find anything still like this. You wouldn't find a frozen wave like that. It's just like that. It stops at a point and it never moves anymore. No, it will always wave because this movement is eternal. So anyway, and beyond this threshold, they are manifested. So you can actually see the wave. And below, that's unmanifested. You cannot see, but that's eternal, forever, endless potentiality. And you can call it field, right? So this is how it is. But you cannot really draw it like this, actually. Why? Because this is linear thinking, right? In linear thinking, there should be a start and there should be an end, and at least you give people a very misleading information, like, oh, there should be a start somewhere and there should be an end somewhere. So why should we draw it? Maybe we should draw it as a different way. So we can draw it as this way. It's round. You wouldn't find a start, a beginning, and an end in a round, right? So in a circle, you wouldn't find it. Great. So we draw it like this. This is the eternal wave. No beginning, endless loop. Manifested here, unmanifested here. Manifested here, unmanifested here. Actually, this drawing make a lot of sense. Why? Because there is one school in Vedanta, which is in ancient India philosophy, that suggests that this is essence, right? They call it Brahman, right? They call it God, they call it Brahman, but it's Brahman without shape or with shape, actually, let's consider this is just the essence, right? And this, you can think it like a sun. This suggests that the relationship between the essence and the shape, the manifested, right? The manifested, because this suggests the sunlight are the manifested existence. This suggests that the relationship between the sunlight and the sun is just beyond describe. But however, the sunlight rely on the sun. It's the same as the wave and the ocean, right? You can say wave, but wave depends on the ocean, relying on the ocean, right? That's the concept of mithya. If without the sun, there wouldn't be sunlight. If there without ocean, there wouldn't be wave. So the manifested are dependent on this potentiality, we see, this potentiality. But of course, they say this is God. They say this is Brahman. For now, we don't talk about this topic yet. But let's say this is the essence, right? And this is like the sun and the sunlight. However, there's another thing that we discussed in last episode, right? Because if you consider this is something with a shape, right? You consider it's a sun, right? Then sun has its own shape, right? And you consider, if you draw it as a round, then there is already boundaries, already limitation here. And you can put the light or the color on it. That you already define it with an actual shape, an actual form, an actual color. That means you already limited it, right? But what we say, the essence is boundless, is full of potentiality that you cannot describe it, you cannot really limit it. So in this way, it's also not really appropriate to draw what actually we mentioned about the field, the relational field, or this boundless potentiality. Because once you draw it, you limit it. This is the same concept why in another summary I mentioned this about the summary of origin. That is why if you want to consider God is the perfect being, right, full of potentiality, and then you give it a shape, you say, oh, that is his ultimate form, then it's problematic, because how could God be limited, right? But I don't want to discuss this in too much detail in this episode. So let's just suggest that this is the understanding of the essence and the manifested. The manifested depends on this field, on this endless, boundless potentiality to manifest it as different shape and form and life and everything ever existed. Without this field, all the manifestation wouldn't be possible. Because without field, there is no potentiality. There is no this origin, source of manifestation. But then, what is this essence? Some people suggest this essence is consciousness, right? You heard that a lot, actually. Heard that a lot, like, oh, so the essence is just consciousness. And you heard people when they say, it's just material, it's just based on the condition of material that we exist, especially from scientists, quite a lot of scientists, of course, and physics professors, they would suggest that. You would also hear that a lot. So they are suggesting that this essence is material, or this essence is idealism. And I wouldn't take sides like that, because I believe they are too extreme, both extreme. Because why? Because they wouldn't even notice, but subconsciously they're just trying to deny and kind of like disrespect another side. If you suggest this is consciousness, and then the material and everything is just an illusion, things like that. And also, if you say this is material, then is another side of story. So anyway, I believe that we should have a reconciliation. Just really drop this position of such an extreme ideology, So consciousness and the material, they are both should be respected. We shouldn't say, oh, this is real, that is fake, this is real, that is fake. I mean, why we do that? In real life, we shouldn't do that because they are all in the relational net. And they are the best friend, right? They're the best friend. They interact with each other. Your mind, your thoughts is interact with your body, and you are interact with other people. This is us. We are living in the web of relationships. Why should we think about something is isolated entity as our essence, right? Is material, is consciousness, and then just kind of like suggest another side is illusion? How could that lead us to peace? How could that lead us to build a beautiful world? It's impossible. That's why we should back to relationship. This is what relational non-duality always said. Back to relationship, back to create, back to enhance a harmonious relationship with yourself, with others, with the world. So you say, I didn't deliberately want to talk about morality. I didn't. But it's inevitable because if you understand these things, as what I just said here, is inevitable result. They have to be, it will naturally lead you to morality, to participate in life, to cherish relationship, to cherish love, to be a nice person, to not hurt other people. Because we are just different manifestation from the same field. And we are all also we are just full of potential as well. Depends on how you want you as a wave to be. You can be a beautiful manifestation anytime you really want it. But you cannot, just imagine or just talk the talk. You need to interact with the world. You need to interact with your own physical body, to involved with your own physical actions, to do something, to make the condition differently. Then you can manifest a better result. It's not just think the think and not talk, just talk the talk, not walk the walk. That will be forever impossible to manifest a beautiful world. And also, please don't be too defensive when I talk about these things about, I mentioned Hinduism, I mentioned Buddhism, I also mentioned science. If you are just because you are a religious believer and you heard the word, oh my, I'm talking about science, oh, that's it. Your mind is polluted by the science. And then if I talk, because you are a person have very logical mind, and you heard words I mentioned Hinduism and Buddhism. Oh my God, no, this is not gonna work. She just like superstitious. People have this kind of mindset. If they go so extreme, like when we talk about the idealism and materialism, if they go this extreme, then it would be very difficult for the conversation to have a reconciliation, because we're just too distant than the real truth. The truth is in the middle way somewhere, that we need to have patience, have tolerance, and have an open mind to find it. And I think it's important, but it doesn't mean like relativism. There are still things in life that they are about principle, they are about something, there are basic things that you cannot cross. And that is also part of morality. That's part of responsibility. That's how we are human beings. Yeah, another thing I want to say is that in my eyes, as well as this middle way thinking, I never consider like Buddhism and Hinduism like they are just like enemy. They should just destroy each other or something. I'm not saying like people, Hindu people or Buddhist people are like that. But I did heard some thoughts, some extreme thoughts from some teaching. They just think another side is just diluted or, and I think that is also very wrong. People should, first of all, they should appreciate each other. They are from the same ancient culture, and they were like through all the time they are trying to, honestly, they're trying to learn from each other, affected by each other, and observe a lot of wisdom from each other. They are both magnificent. But in my eyes, they are both a little bit go to extreme tendency sometimes. That's why they need to correct each other. They need each other's energy to neutral it. And actually, this is one of the reasons why I make this philosophy as well. I just want to prove that these two, Hinduism and Buddhism, they hold one of the most important piece of reality. And when you combine these two, that's the ultimate reality. And it can be absolutely synced to nowadays science. It can naturally lead to morality, naturally lead to freedom and peace and bliss and happiness. So we don't need to hold so strong attachment to this extreme tendency. Let's just have an open mind to build this bridge. And please have faith in me that I'm going to continue this project and about this part, about the mechanism of manifestation you just started. So let me conclude. The most important thing we talk about today is this, right? And this is first, second, third. So this is the mechanism. This is literally the mechanism, is universal principle of manifestation, and I will use this principle to explain all type of manifestation. No matter it's matter or consciousness or everything, it can be explained by this mechanism. So in further episodes, we will discuss each one by one. This is the most important thing. We'll discuss this a lot anyway. So thank you for your patience, and I'm very looking forward to hear your thinking. And yeah, please feel free to leave comments, to communicate with me. And if you have doubts, if you have a lot of confusion or whatever, just leave me a message. Yeah, I'm looking forward to communicate with you. And yeah, it's my pleasure, it's my honor. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.